call this meeting to order. Roll call.
I have to see who's here.
Tim and Sarah.
Tim and Sarah, okay.
We probably should have a pledge of allegiance too, so.
Okay, so I've got Isaacson,
Yes.
Strobush.
Here.
Leonard,
Here.
Elkin,
Here.
Flanham. Van Blaricon,
Oh, she did unmute.
Yes, I'm here.
I did not hear from Rick, so. And Julie's gone.
Yeah.
Raymond Schneider's gone.
Okay. All right, should we start out with the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here's the sad looking pole.
I know.
Pretty old. I think we can get one for the new building. Okay, let's start off with order of items. MSA change order for replacement of light poles and conduit for Keller Avenue project. Is that Eric? We're gonna put Eric on and have him run through, or,
I think so.
okay?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah,
Let you-
so go ahead, Paul.
I'll let you go ahead and run us through the change order.
Sure. So the change order, it includes, basically it's a change from what happened because for a couple reasons. The light pole bases, as we've talked about at past council meetings and at the committee of the whole meeting the other night, there's a number of light poles that just can't get put back up because of corrosion in the bases. I walked by some of them today, and there's supposed to be 4 bolt holes, and there's only 3 of them left because one has been completely corroded off. And so we knew there was going to have to be something with light poles. And Jeff Mahoney from the city has talked about ordering those on his own and bringing them in for the contractor to set up and install. And so there is a slight additional cost on that for the change order, because it includes the electrician's time of actually building the poles. So putting the fixtures on and running the wires all the way up inside and connecting the wires. So there is a slight additional cost for standing new poles over what was salvaged before. So those are broke out in the light poles and bases category. The numbers that you're seeing there, they would replace items 18 and 19 on the bid tab, which were the basically remove and reinstall, as well as the salvage light pole items. And so in the change order, the first page of the change order there, if you look a quarter of the way down, the contract documents, the changes to that are the changes in the lighting contract. So that would be a deduct of about $25,630 that you were planning to spend there. The light poles and bases did go up a little bit because there was a lot more of them that had to be moved and can't be put back up than what we thought there was going to be originally. And so that's why that price is higher. The second portion of this is the conduit. We had discussed this the other night at the committee of the whole meeting. The conduit that's out there isn't in great shape and is not deep enough. And so the real push here is that DOT requires it to be 18 inches down inside of their right of way based on their details. And there's multiple places along the project that your conduit is just not 18 inches deep. And I passed out some pictures the other night at the committee of the whole meeting for you to look at, just documenting that as well. And so what this price is here is for the conduit, as well as new wires, roughly using 45% roughly of the existing wires. I talked to the electrician. He said 40 to 50% is a good estimate of what he can use. And so for this purpose, I used 45. And then the number 12 copper lighting, that applies to new poles. So inside the poles, the number 12 lighting will go up for 12 feet on every new city pole that gets installed. So depending on what you decide for light poles and bases and the number that you have to have, that quantity could go up. So if you put more new city poles up, that number 12 lighting quantity will go up by about 60 feet each time, because there's 5 conductors inside of each pole and they're 12 feet high. So it'd be 60 feet for every city owned pole. So these are kind of the number 12 wire. There is a minimum amount that would be used for restanding as many poles as we can and putting about, I think it was 9 new city poles up. So that's the conduit and wiring portion of that. There's also subgrade improvements on there, and that includes some select crush material. I don't know if any of you have been out to the site and saw them kind of putting about 3-inch rock down on the north end near Berman Street. But what we ran into up there was just terrible soils. They've been described as kind of like a pigsty type soil consistency in some places. And so we had to dig that out, and with the groundwater, put some rock in there to stabilize it a little bit more. And so there's a cost for that rock to go in. And then the additional common excavation would be the additional material that they had to take out for that rock material, the select crush material, to come back in. We talked this over with DOT. We went back and forth on a bunch of different options, and we settled on this with DOT as they have a vested interest here as well. So those are kind of the items that are all inclusive in the change order. The change order as a whole would be $149,292 if you choose to pursue everything on here.
On the subgrade improvements, is that the total cost so far, or does that include half of, or whatever, how much that the state is gonna pay?
That doesn't include anything from the state yet, because I haven't gotten a final answer from the state if they're going to pay. I've been leaning on them pretty hard to see if they will cost share this, since this is their road as well. I've gotten differing answers and differing feelings from differing people within DOT. Some people would say that opening up the road for utility construction is a risk to the city, and that's why the city needs to absorb that cost. Other people from DOT would say that this is our road and it was crap underneath it, and we need to make sure that it's better. So I think DOT wants a final cost on this, and I don't have a final cost on it yet. This is still an estimated quantity. I didn't get the final amount from the contractor yet because it was still open as of this morning.
Okay. Now, for light poles and bases, that's how many have to be replaced? So we got to replace 16, and the small poles, we have to replace 24. How many total of them are there?
Yes, so there would be, so they took down 47 lights. That's where you see that demo existing poles. 7 of them are being replaced, are not going back up. And that's where that pull box number comes in. So that would be like an electrical handhole that's getting placed at that location where the old light was. The Type 5 modified base for the small pole, so they have to put up 24 small poles. I believe in talking with the contractor that it was, 9 of those were new poles coming from the city, and that they could restand 15 of them that were existing. And so at a minimum, they're saying that they need 9 new poles because of just the corrosion and stuff that happened, but they can restand 15 of them. The large poles, those are, all of them are okay to be restood because those were in a lot better condition. So, but those light pole bases have to go back in nonetheless. Some of them had to be removed in order to get water services in and stuff like that. They were on top of water. And so when you replace the water, you end up taking the whole base out.
What do you recommend?
So, I mean, as far as the light poles and bases, I think my recommendation, it's a little hard for me to make because I'm not a member of the community. I think though that in terms of if cost is the item that you're most concerned about, I think minimizing the amount of new light poles that you can do would be fine, especially because we can kind of put those in some of the downtown areas and then kind of spread out the other ones on the outskirts of town. So all the new poles, everything downtown would look new. And then as you're coming in or leaving and speed limit's a little higher or whatever, you can put some of those older poles back up. I don't think that if it was my project, I don't know that I would replace all the light poles like was talked about the other night. I get the feeling of that. I just don't know that I'd do it right now for the expense for something that can be done later if they're retrofitted onto the bases. As far as conduit,
So if we decide to replace them later, does that mean they're going to be cheaper in 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
with the way material prices have been going, I would doubt that that's true, unless COVID just screwed up everything enough in the supply chain that this is a little hump and it'll go back down. I don't know about that. Generally though, we see inflation over time. So the longer you wait, the higher the prices would be, but you would potentially have more funding available at that point.
For the poles that would get reused, is there any refurb that needs to be done? Any painting, any other stuff like that that's not covered in this?
I think that would be more of a city maintenance thing. They're just going to restand those, and for that would complete their contract. And so if it is, you want them repainted or something, I think that would be a city maintenance item.
And something to do before you stand them?
Potentially. I'm not sure about that. I think it could be done either way.
Yeah.
It's obviously easier when it's on the ground than doing it off a ladder, but
Yeah, I'm just thinking if you need to do anything like bead blast or anything like that, it's easier if they're down.
Yep.
Clean them up.
I'm sorry, I just think we're spending $3 million on this project already. They're in there, they're going to, all the poles will all be new, the wiring is all going to be new, the conduit's all going to be new. Let's just do new poles and then we don't have to worry about it. It's not a maintenance issue. It's all going to look the same. They don't have to bother with putting the good poles in this part and the bad poles in that part. I just think it's worth the extra money. And we knew that there's going to be increased expense as we go along. No project ever, comes out at what they first estimated at. But I think this would be a good investment into our downtown for aesthetic and for maintenance value.
yep. And all these are unit prices. So if you decide that you want more of the new poles, then that will just go, categories will get shifted around. Instead of the stand existing poles with new fuse holders, those 15 would bump up into the build and stand new city supplied light poles category. So the cost of the light pole is not actually on here because that is coming through the city in order to avoid a 10% markup fee from the contractor. So Jeff kind of took that on himself in order to save the city some money there. So it would be the cost for the light poles would come out of the city. I'm understanding the general fund or TIF funds or something like that. But they wouldn't be able to come under any sort of funding loans or anything because they are like new light poles. If you change order them in, the contractor's going to put a 10% markup on there. And so to save yourself 10% on each light pole, Jeff is handling the coordination of ordering those.
They're $1,700 a piece. Is that how much they?
Yeah, so didn't Jeff say the other day it was $1,700 a piece? I just heard somebody else ask that as well. $1,700 a piece, and we're talking about how many? 9?
They're minimum 9 new ones. If you wanted to do them all, it'd be 15 more than that. So you'd have
4.
I have 10 ordered.
Yeah.
This is Jeff. I did order 10 of the light poles already.
So there'd be 25 new ones.
Or is it?
24 new ones. Yeah.
24 new ones total.
That would go up. Yep.
Okay.
If you wanted to do them all. Yep. So that'd be
So it's-
around $41,000 to do all of them.
And that includes the new build and stand with extra $200 a piece.
That would just be light pole prices, the extra $200, you're looking at another,
$5,000.
yeah.
So it's an increase in what we're already in for, because you've already bought 10, it's an increase of 28.5 over what we've already committed to.
Correct.
So when we're throwing around the 41,000, that's not really, that's not how much yes, total, that's what it's increasing, but the decision isn't increasing us by that. The decision is increasing us by 28.5.
Yeah. It's not so bad.
I stink, huh?
I mean, I hate spending money, but to Tim's point, we're spending $3 million on this project to quibble over $28,000 seems.
I think Tim's point is probably the best one, that instead of standing older things and trying to make them, fit in a location where, okay, they won't be noticed as much, is maybe being a little too frugal. I
Some of
think,
them are 30 years old.
right, so they're not
Yeah.
that far from
The lifespan.
where they might be compromised anyway soon.
Well, to push us along, I'll make a motion to purchase all new light poles for the downtown, incurring the additional expense. And we'll see where the motion goes.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Do you want a roll call so we can get this,
Yep.
everybody straight?
I certainly can. Leonard. Elkin,
Yes,
Strobush,
Yes,
Lanham,
Yes,
Motion carries.
So
Then-
I guess, can I clarify that motion? Was that all of the small poles? And you're still planning on reinstalling the large poles?
yes, you
Okay.
are correct.
Okay, thank you.
So that also then changes the numbers in the change order too, right? So the orders that are, or the numbers that are in here don't reflect that, because these have to modify based upon now having new stands. Right?
yes,
Yes.
So the unit prices don't change.
Right.
It would be the quantities of those units that would change, and it would ultimately change the total estimated price there. But for the change order purposes, you are change ordering in unit prices. So if you decide to do all new light poles, which was the motion that was just made, your quantity of stand existing poles would go to 0, and you'd strike that 39.75, and your quantity of build and stand new city supplied poles would increase to 24, And that quantity would change to 11,400.
Got it. So the,
And then the total would be, who has a calculator?
Well, I think instead of changing at this point, maybe we don't want to change the first page there, since we're just doing
This,
unit prices. You're still changing them in, but it will be different. I guess we can, or if you want to get the math right, we can do that, but it'll just have to go back to the contractor to sign again for that. So however you want to do it is fine with me.
Do it though, we're creating a paper trail then.
I have more lights than anything. We have like 3 out here that are only like a year old that we're gonna put up. I have another one at the shop, so we need to go through and find out exactly what we're gonna order.
Okay.
Done. So I don't understand
be
what you're
accurate,
saying,
yeah.
but there's 3 out here that were just put up last winter. So
Okay.
we're gonna reuse those for sure.
so we're not putting any dollars into this per se, because you're changing the quantities, and that's gonna change the ultimate total.
Correct.
So then, okay,
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. From this end, Jeff, the quantities will still be the same. I mean, from your end, it does change it because you're operating on the ordering of the light poles, but this is just the standing of the light poles. And so no matter how many you stand, it's going to be the same unless you have those 3 that are only a year old and you want to restand those. Then we can keep 3 in that category of the restand. So
Yeah.
Okay.
so the motion was made for new light poles. How about the motion for the change order? Subgrade improvements and.
Well, then that was getting to my question. These numbers don't, so if
They're
we're
not- they're not
approving the
correct.
change order for 2, then they don't match the closer, I mean, we're gonna be off by
Yeah.
7,000-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If, I realize we want to make things move along faster, but it's probably best to follow process and get the right paperwork in place, and then we don't have to try to explain it when we don't remember what the heck we did.
But we could adjust these numbers now and
And know what they are,
approve it.
and approve that, but then we still have to get the
that's what
change
I'm
order
saying, we'll have
back.
to get
Right.
the change order back,
So what is that number so we can then make sure that we have it right?
because that's changing and everything else is staying the
Because
same.
otherwise we're gonna have to call another meeting to approve the second change order.
Mhm.
So let's get it approved now with
Yep.
the updated
With the
amount.
totals. Mhm.
As long as they sign it.
Eric, can you run the numbers through then?
yes, give me 1 second here.
Yeah, so it changes
White out.
some of those numbers, the,
Orders.
we would actually stand.
Yeah.
Would be a different number, and the number of new ones going up would be more.
Right.
Yeah, I want to see it on paper.
Patty, is it possible for me to share my screen and just kind of walk through these quantities? Would that be okay?
You have to give them permission.
I already did. You should be able to do it.
But that's okay to do?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so this is our cost here. Jeff, do you know how many of those 1-year-old poles that you'd like to restand?
Oh, Jeff just left.
He just left the room.
Ah, crap. All right.
3, and he has 1 new one, so. And 1 new one will have to be rewired.
Yep.
So it looks like 3 and. Here,
Here he comes.
he's coming.
Yeah, because we can't approve this unless it's right.
Yes.
So then I changed this one to 3. And then the build and stand new city supplied poles to 21, which would total our 24 small poles.
Which one did you change to 3? This one?
That sound right, Jeff?
And that would be.
So,
We're gonna use your 3 in building stand.
Yes.
Okay.
21.
and then,
Oh, I think the electrician made a mistake in his quantities when he sent them to me, because I believe this actually has to be 19, because you would have the 16 of the large ones to restand still.
7, and this is 21.
So I believe that actually goes to 19 to cover this 16 of the large ones plus 3 of the small ones.
7.
Oh, got it. That makes sense.
This is just for me, so I know what the heck's going on.
So how was your day?
21.
How your day?
Night is too far away for me to see what those
I know.
numbers are.
That's 21.
I can't see it.
Oh, thank you.
And that's
Is that
19.
you then?
That's Eric, he's sharing his screen.
Yeah.
And 14, 20. Just take a picture of it.
21, yeah, do a screenshot. 21, 19, yeah.
98, 70.
Okay, so then what impact does that have on the change order number 2?
Well, I think we should go through the conduit numbers first and get all of these numbers figured out, and then we can do the overall change order number 2, if that is okay.
Perfect.
So I had heard the mention of new wires in all, and so, well, I guess this number is going to change anyway, because now we have 21 of these, and the electrician 60 times 60. So this would change to 1,260 feet, because there's 60 feet in each pole. There's 5 conductors at 12 foot high. This number, I think, is the one that still needs to be talked about mostly, because this is reusing 45% of existing wires.
That's good.
And so if you wanted to use all new wire, this quantity would change.
We almost double.
And was it Rick that was saying 2 nights ago that we really should use all new wire, or was it?
Yeah, but I looked at the wire when they pulled it out. It sure didn't look bad. I'm no electrician like he is, but I don't know.
And it's their liability, they guarantee it, so I don't know what the guarantee is, but.
It's only a year
yeah, trust
guarantee, ain't it?
discretion.
There's a 1-year warranty on the project, yes, from completion.
So with new conduit, it'd be easy to pull, and there, if we had a problem, where if it's not new conduit, then we're gonna have problems.
Right.
And I thought we did decide that we are doing all new conduit, right? That is all new in there?
Just
This-
Pulling the old
repulling
wire.
somewhere where it will fit.
Right.
And the electrician said they expect 45 to 50, or 40 to 50% is reusable?
Yes. Yep.
I think we have to use our professional opinion. Then
If they're okay with it.
Copper's expensive.
If they're saying 45% is reusable, I'm okay to go with that 45% number.
Yeah, if that's what the contractor's happy with, I'm okay.
Okay.
What's the worst case scenario? Change order number 3.
Well, I expect
That's
change order
gonna be
number 3 anyway.
Changing again.
So there, I guess just to warn you, there will be at the end of this all, because of funding requirements, there will be one final change order at the end of the project, no matter how many there are during the project, because all of the prices that you have are unit prices and they're based on estimated quantities. The payment is actually based on field installed quantities. So let's say the water main, we had a quantity of 6,000 feet estimated, but they actually put in 5,970 feet. You wouldn't pay for that last 30 feet. And so there would be a discrepancies in the final number of the overall price anyway. And so there will be a price adjustment change order at the end of the project, no matter what. And so as part of this change order, I think it's good that we're trying to get the prices as close to possible as what we foresee happening. But they will all be measured on site. And at the end of the day, the quantities installed, like, I mean, we're talking 17,000 feet of wire. It's almost impossible to hit that exactly on the head when we're saying they can use roughly 45% of existing wires. So this quantity may go up or down a little bit, and that'll just be reflected in the final change order total. But for now, you're approving the change order, and we're getting it close in number. Does that make sense to everyone?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So is everyone good with these quantities here and prices for the change order of using this price to complete the actual numbers on the change order? Okay. And then the last one is the subgrade improvements. Again, these are estimated quantities. They'll be measured in the field and verified, but for the purpose of tonight, this is the best estimated quantity we have. And you're change ordering in a unit price. And so there may be more of this that has to happen in the future. Jeff has warned me that down by the Mexican restaurant by Memorial, there's some pretty poor soils down in that area. So we may be using a little bit more of this down in that area if needed. Hopefully it's better than what I've been told it is, but I'm not overly optimistic at this point from what I've heard.
I got a question. Does the city take care of all the crushed material and all that under the existing road, or is the DOT come in on that too?
Well, that's what I have been trying to work with DOT on. And what they're hoping for is some sort of price, and then they want from me what I think is fair. And so, to be honest, since the DOT maintains the center 24 feet, and we're going, I believe it's 63 feet wide in order to get outside the back of the curbs. I'm just going to take a percentage of whatever 24 is of that 63 and use that percentage and apply it towards this total subgrade improvement price and see if DOT will pay that.
As of right now, that's the total without the DOT.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, that look good to everybody?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm good with it as well.
Okay. We need a motion to approve change order number 2.
Yeah, he's gonna give
Hang
us
on
some.
1 second here.
Oh, yes.
25,630.
It's okay as long as you don't get an extra zero on the end. It's like,
Yeah, do 1 million.
All right. So this 156,808 will be your net contract change. So that would be right here on the change order. 156,808 would go there, and then 2,983, 295. Plus 156,808. So then your total here is 314,0103. Throw some commas in there.
Mhm. Oh, okay, that's the increase, all right.
So that would be what the new numbers on the change order would reflect.
And that is net of the deduct from the original bid with the electricity for the light poles, standing of the light poles and stuff, correct?
Yeah, so that deduct there was the 25,630.
Yep.
And over here, we had a total increase of 182 minus that 25,630 comes out to the 165,808.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve change order number 2 as noted on the information that was just created for what an increase of 156,808.
Second,
I have a quick question. In item number 2 here, we'll handle that differently depending upon how we approve that, right? So we're not we shouldn't be including this in this current change order, right? Okay,
Did you get your question answered?
yes.
Okay, so a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Roll call?
Um, Leonard,
Yes.
Elkin,
Yes.
Strobush,
yes,
Lineham,
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Eric. And then let's move on to number 2. Possible installation of speaker wire and speakers on Keller Avenue.
My question about this, I was actually in the meeting this morning that this was brought up on. And my question would be, is there any way to pull electricity from an existing light pole? Like, is there a way to get, excuse me, some sort of electricity from a pole that's already standing such that we could, plug something in for a temporary basis?
Sure, the big poles have power outlets on them.
Okay, so the way I look at it, if we have that ability on some of the big power poles, I personally don't see the need to run wire for a speaker system if we have the ability to plug in speakers or whatever the case may be intermittently throughout the city. It would just be simply an investment in some speakers and have them all play the same tune. That's my opinion.
The question I have is, how do you connect speaker to speaker without wire? And the cost of the wire is what, under 5,000 or something like that?
The problem on the schedule that's already moving,
Mm-hmm.
the concrete's coming, they're moving.
Okay.
That's gonna be the biggest downfall of it all. And if you're in their way, when we slow them down, about $1,000 an hour.
what was that, Jeff? You said was gonna be the biggest downfall? I couldn't hear you.
A1, when they're moving along, when they have downtime, it costs us about $1,000 an hour. And they're moving along and they think it might be kind of an inconvenience on their end. That's my opinion.
Okay,
my point, in today's day and age, there's the ability to wirelessly connect speakers, and there's no need to hardwire them in.
Eric, you know anything about that?
We ran wiring in our new fellowship hall, and we're doing everything wirelessly. So we're not using it. So the ability to, the tools to do wireless, most everything, improve and keep improving. So, you know, those kinds of devices probably cost more than just a speaker, but any outdoor speakers are higher in cost anyway.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I guess I would like to see a quote on what this would cost. I mean, I know we got letters and emails today saying that it's cheaper and this and that, but what does cheaper mean? What is that number? And are they talking about 3 speakers or 30 speakers? And are they, you know, just need more detail on what they're proposing, and what the cost to it would be.
Yeah, then that goes to something that Jeff was bringing up as well, and that is, there is no plan. There's no estimate that we can really work with as far as where will it run? You know, somebody has to do layout work, and if that takes long enough that we're causing A1 problems, then we have another issue. So
Well, and that's it, is it's kind of late in the project to be requesting that to occur.
it's just timing is not good.
Well, and I think, you know, my other thoughts on this whole thing is that, you know, it's not even necessarily like when it comes to, okay, so what the intent is like during Christmas, you have Christmas music playing, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, it's an investment that we're going to need to make one way or another. When I say we, I mean a community. It's not necessarily the city. It might be the community club. It might be individual businesses. However, businesses also have the ability to perhaps put music outside of their own business to assist with this as well. And I just think at this point in time, I don't think it's worth the change that we would need to make at this point in time with this particular project, and incur the expense by the city.
Yeah. And you could do a lot of things that you'd spend money on and put a lot of speakers out there and get it wrong, because dealing with audio it's a science, and there are audio engineers who know how to get the most out of equipment, and I don't even know what we would be hooking up. That's kind of the problem.
Debbie, why don't you unmute yourself and explain it? Because I'm the only one that can see the chat right now.
Okay,
I can see
I'm
the
Debbie
chat
Elmer.
too.
Am I allowed to speak at all?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. I might get hit in the gun whale by a child. I have 2 toddlers in the background. But the idea is that speakers can't just be plugged into electricity. They have to be wired speaker to speaker continuously with low voltage wiring, and that is an inexpensive wire. If we put that underground now with the conduit that's going in, it gives us an access point to put that at all the light poles. Elkin, what's that?
You can't run low voltage with high voltage.
I know, that's why we're asking for another conduit. And that if we're trenching now, sidewalks are replaced every 75 to 100 years. I went down and talked to MSA engineers today. So this is our opportunity to have an extra conduit in town at a very low price to run technology that we haven't even dreamed up yet. But right now we can put low voltage wire in and have a sound corridor for our downtown businesses to be connected and knit together for events, our parades, Amber Alerts, all sorts of events that we could have for our community. Luck, Cable, Hayward, they all have it. It's not very expensive. And to overlook it right now when there's a window of opportunity for us to put this in under our sidewalks. Once we pave over with cement, we don't have that option again. It becomes exponentially higher. And wireless is very much more expensive. It's not as reliable. Those signals are being sold off. And hardwire has proven to be a more reliable source of sound and easier to fix. It just seems like we're overlooking an opportunity here, and it's not a complicated thing. Low voltage wiring to speakers is very easy. We could stick this in the plan right now.
Okay,
And it
then,
would be under $10,000. If you look in the chat document, I have the prices on wire and a conduit. Well, I have black water pipe in there. I think we should put conduit in case we need to have some specified electrical component in there in the future. But we won't have this opportunity for another 75 to 100 years, and it will be under $10,000.
who's going to provide the design, the layout for this?
You only need it for one side of the street for whatever we decide is what we want to have for the sound corridor.
You have to decide where the entrance, where you pull it out, where it comes in.
Well, let's do it from Berman to Sioux Line Park. Easy.
No, I'm
Decide.
talking about,
It has to go pole to pole, and we can't skip a pole because all the speakers have to be connected. If we miss one of the poles, it'll be a problem. So, but if we run it pole to pole right now, we could have that for our future generations, future businesses. It's not that I just want sound downtown. I think this is a valuable asset for businesses in our community at a very low price for a high ROI.
got nothing.
This is Larry, am I coming through?
Yep.
Well, does anybody have any questions? I have worked with low voltage systems for a lot of years, 15 at Birkebeiner specifically, where we do long distance audio. Wireless works great short distance, right? I have plenty of wireless systems of my own, but that's 300 feet max. And Debbie's right, the FCC is selling off the frequencies. They just sold off 700 a few years ago, 600 2 years ago, megahertz, gone. What's next? Wireless, you can't do anything, wired, you can't do anything with it. It's ours.
I think what we're saying is, the idea is great. We have to have this, and if Eric's still there, it would have to be engineered in. It would have to be given to B&B to do, I believe, to run it alongside their conduit. And so.
It's like Eric said, I don't live in town. I don't really have a say in this. It's just other than I've worked with it, and I have installed a 70 volt or 100 volt system, depending on what you put in, and repaired it. All the stuff in school. The speakers that would be putting up would be, if you choose, would be the same brand that you already own at the band shell. They're at the peak of the band shell. They've been up there for years. They just work. They sit outside, direct weather. The football field there at Amory has that brand. They work. I did find the price to do wireless downtown, which you can do, is about $5,000 for the command center, and then $2,000 a pole, and you would need about 3 speakers per pole, or 3 speakers per block. So about $6,000 a block. And that was prices 2.5 years ago.
I guess what I'm getting at is, to run from pole to pole, it's going to have to go in the conduit when they pour the pole bases.
Yeah.
And the only people that can do that is B&B Electric, and B&B Electric will have to have some kind of diagram, some kind of working document, correct, Eric? That they can put in. It just can't be willy-nilly.
They need a design.
Yeah, they would want something. My guess is if there's another conduit that you're asking them to install, it's going to look at that $6.85 a piece as well. And so to go the 1,700 feet that was referenced from Sioux Line Park, That'd be about $11,600 in conduit.
Yeah, I mean, the price of the wire is nothing. It's just now, how about the engineering of it and getting it ready to have a drawing so, B&B could follow? What's your cost on that? Is there a cost?
Are you talking from MSA?
Yes.
I am unsure. I mean, I think MSA's cost would be pretty low probably, but I think B&B's cost, you're asking them to take on work that was not in this contract and they can say no. So that's kind of where it's at. This was not part of the contract. It is definitely a change order into the contract that would have to even ask if they are willing to do it at this point. It's not something that's necessary for the project to get rebuilt. And so if they're busy enough, they may not even want to do it, but that question can be asked of them. I just don't know that you can assume that B&B will do it.
I guess my feeling on this whole thing is I don't think it's a bad idea at all. It's just, it's too late to interject a project like this or a component of a project, I guess, into this when they're already moving dirt and they're pouring new concrete and all this stuff's going on already. So, you know, we should have been talking about this a year ago.
Last fall for ideas.
Eric, is it too late? Eric Barclay, is it too late for us to add this?
Officially, the answer would be no, because there's no concrete down, but A1 is obviously moving. And if this were to happen, it would need to take place on their timetable, unless the city wants to pay them for downtime, which, and Jeff made the right estimate, it's about $1,000 an hour for their downtime, for their equipment and a crew to stand there. And so, again, if B&B says no, and there's added coordination and things like that, there's a definite possibility that this is too late. I agree with the notion that this should have been talked about a long time ago. But I guess the official answer of is it too late is no, because there's not concrete in yet. But
So
it's
the next
coming.
step would be to ask B&B as soon as possible.
If the city wants to pursue this.
My other question is, do we have a funding source that's going to pay for all this material in time, or is this falling back on the city?
Ultimately, it's the city at this point.
Shop Amory is willing to raise the funds to volunteer to raise the funds to make this happen. It's under $10,000. We can run fundraisers between the businesses. I think it's worth asking B&B tonight, see if we can get some numbers before making a decision whether yes or no. It's the cost of 2 light poles that you just agreed to as being not even an issue. And now you're saying no to something that you minutes ago said, might as well do it. But this is such a contentious thing because we didn't talk about it last year. And whose fault is that? We didn't know it was an option. And now we're bringing it to the table in the final hours when we could possibly do it for future generations in our town and create more community in our town, knit our downtown together. It's more than just laying speaker wire. It's creating the town we want our town to be. We want to stand out. We want to bring people to our town for events. We want to, the return on investment in a $10,000 speaker system for our downtown, I don't know how you calculate that over the next 75 years. That could be, if we don't even know the events we're trying to plan yet that we could utilize this speaker system for. I just think there's a lot of value in this for our businesses that we're not taking into account to, and we're just dismissing it because it's inconvenient and hadn't been planned when it should have been.
I think it's more than that.
It's more than inconvenient. At this point, it's a potential stopper for progress by A1. So we don't know how much time that's going to take. And without a plan, it's really hard to implement.
But the plan would be to contact B&B to see if they would be willing to do it. Low voltage wiring isn't a high intensity plan. That I understand.
It's them, it's whether they will run conduit or not.
Yeah, but we need to ask them before we decide that, no, they're not gonna do it. No, we don't have time. No, we can't do this. Why don't we ask the people in charge of making it possible, whether they can do it or not before deciding?
Well, then my question to Eric would be, what, would you be willing to, ask B and B tomorrow when they're back on the job? And if they could fit that into their schedule to add, what do you add? 3/4 inch conduit, 1/2 inch conduit, alongside the power pole, conduit as they run it, and what that would cost?
I
And if they're willing to do it?
I can ask them. Yep, I would just email their project manager, Brody. He's been the one that I've been dealing with on all the pricing for everything. And so he's kind of in charge. I can ask him. Without a design though, I guess is they ask for 1/2 inch conduit, or is it ask, like, what officially is the ask that I'm asking him to do?
What is low voltage wire traditionally run in? It's not even required to have conduit, correct?
The wire is
Burial.
the wire is direct burial, but it's a lot easier if it's in conduit. It sure could be something like 1 inch. You know, give it a little room.
And who is pulling the wires?
Sounds like we'd have to have B and B do it.
Well, if we provide the wire to B and B when they pull wires, I guess they could pull wires, right?
Well, it's in another conduit.
Yeah.
So
It'd be
yeah,
an
there'd be a cost associated with them pulling it.
Sure.
I don't know what that is.
No.
Right, and then at each pole, you said you wanted to pull it up at each pole. How is it terminated and what do you do?
You would just put a loop in each pole on, coming in and going out, and leave it.
These are the
the-
things I'm saying
And
that
you hook it up later. Just put some then drop it down the middle and hook it up.
B and B wants a plan. That's all I'm getting at, is that there needs, you say, okay, so and so can pull wire.
Yeah,
But they need to have a design layout so they know what to do, because they're professionals and they want to do
Yeah.
the
sure. I don't
Eric-
have, I'm not
Eric
sure I could
Barclay,
do
what
that
would,
because,
what would that include? I mean, if we just want to run wire from pole to pole, from Berman to Sioux Line Park, we have to have a professional draft up that plan, or is it, who is responsible for that generally?
It's hard to say because, I mean, to be honest, when we do it, we have an electrical engineer do the plans for us.
Even for low voltage wire, is it required
to
to have
be
an
honest,
engineer?
I don't know.
Okay.
We don't deal in a lot of low voltage wire. We do street
Well,
lights and
As I understand with low voltage wire, an electrician isn't even required to be involved because it's low voltage wire. But to get it on the plan, which is required for the entire project, who could we talk to write that into a plan? And what would the cost be associated? So as far as I see, we need B and B to be willing to do it, and we need to have it on a
Debbie?
plan.
Debbie, I know you're very, very passionate about this and you really want this to happen. We are going to take the steps, or at least Eric's going to take the steps tomorrow to ask if B and B is even interested in doing this. And I think that's the first step. And then finding out what they require as far as, do they need a plan? And if they do need a plan, what does that plan contain? I don't think Eric has all the information right now to answer all these questions for you.
Which I
let's
completely
take this-
understand.
I think
That's
take this step by-
understandable.
Let's take this step by step. Tomorrow, Eric's willing to ask if they're willing to do the project. And I think that's the major step. And he'll, I'm guessing, he's going to get all the details. If they say yes, this is what they need, and this is the time frame that they need it. But don't be surprised if they say no.
Oh, I completely understand that, but I also want to get ahead of the 8 ball and say, what's the next step? Who needs to be, because otherwise we're $1,000 an hour behind the project because we have to wait another week for a meeting. So if we know what the next step after asking B&B is to get this on the plan so it can happen, then we're golden. But I understand if B&B says no, the projects, we don't get to proceed. But if they say yes, then knowing the next step would be that far towards
Yeah.
getting the project
So
to
Eric's
happen.
gonna ask him tomorrow and so we can move on here. Because we just seem to be spinning our wheels right now.
Yeah,
I
I
think
can,
it's just part of this discussion. I don't know if it's been in the wheels. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I can ask, and when I hear back, I will get numbers if, or what, I guess, if they're willing to do it, and if they, I guess I'd have to have a price on 1-inch conduit and stuff like that as well. I can get that information to Patty to disperse to the rest of the board if that works.
And see, you'll have to see what it is they need for documentation or, description of what they need to do so that we can figure that out too.
Yeah, I'm good with that plan.
Yeah.
Well then, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for their time and consideration.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?